Hey everyone, welcome back to Channel Boozer here. Thanks for dropping by. In today's video, we're going to focus on one of the hardest dungeons in the game, and that's going to be Shogun's Grove. In this video, I'm going to go through my team, the reason why I chose my champions, and what needs to be done for this team to work and be successful. Hopefully you guys like the team. Let's jump right into it. Alright guys, so here's the team right here. I'm pretty happy with this team. I put a lot of time and energy into figuring out the small little nuances with it to make sure it runs really well. So I want to share that with you guys here today, and hopefully it helps you guys out. But here's the team. We got Mithrala, obviously Hydra free champion. We got Nut, recent fusion, one of the best fusions of all time. Void, two Void commons, two Void rare champions. Cold Heart and Renegade, of course, they're one of the best Void rares in the game. And then we have a relatively newcomer, Epic Ruella. She's actually excellent in this area, and as well, she's actually excellent in Fire Knight hard. But we'll jump into the presets, and then we'll go over the AI setting. We'll do a run. I'll explain things as clearly as possible, and then we'll go over the builds and how they work together. Okay, so that's going to be the structure of the video. So let's jump into the AI presets here. So we have Mithrala opening with the AoE Hex and then defense up, and then turning it off. We want her to prioritize her A1 and her shield instead of using the Hex ability. So basically she opens just to give the defense up. Afterwards she goes with the A1 for poisons and then the shield ability. Speeds, there is a little bit of leniency here. I went to 278 and it was working. 277 works. I believe 276 works. Mithrala's timing is very important because she is speed tuned in this run to cleanse after the Phantom lays down debuffs. That's very important. Secondly, she needs accuracy to place her poison debuffs. Ideally for this dungeon, you're looking at about 550 accuracy. We're always running Mithrala in the lead, so that's plus 80. So she is a little bit short on accuracy here, but I'm trying to get away with it. I can't really squeeze any more out of her current gear set. So far is working fine, but I would like maybe another 30 accuracy would be nice. So moving on, we have Renegade. We can go over the gear selection after the run. Renegade here, we have 134 speed. Again, the speed is very important. 90,000 HP. You want her the highest crit damage of the whole team. She is the one that is going to eat the hits from the Phantom. Very important. You don't want her to use the triple hit because you don't want her to be doing extra hits against the Phantom, because that will trigger his counter, his shade counter to go up. So you want her to open with the cooldown reduction, and then she'll probably only get one hit of her A1, and that's about it. Speed's important. I don't think there's too much wiggle room here. You can try 133 and then keep the rest speeds, but I would try to aim for exact speeds because there is obviously turn meter things that happen when one speed is off. But I know Mithrala works at 277, 278. I did test that. Renegade, I'm not too sure. I think 134. I'm going to leave it at that. So moving on to Nut. He's 258. Speeds I think are pretty tight here. I think are pretty tight. You could probably wiggle a little bit on the DPS, to be honest, but I think these ones are much tighter. The supports are more tighter. So the DPS you can probably wiggle a little bit, but you want to basically with damage and his turn meter, his accuracy is not important for this fight. You could open with the A1. I think leaving off the A2 is the A2 is not as strong as the A1s for Giant Slayer procs. So having more A1s is better than having the A2 going. And then of course you prioritize and open with the Blessed Bash ability. Moving on, Heartseeker. So you want Heartseeker prioritized. You don't want the A2 at all, and then you want the quad hit with the A1 proccing Giant Slayer ideally. You want her with good amount of crit damage just to allow your run to not fail if you don't have decreased defense down, for example. You want as much crit damage as you can squeeze on her. You don't need accuracy. If you can squeeze 100 crit rate, that's great, but obviously it's not going to be super easy, because I'll show you guys the reasoning behind that later. And then we have Ruella, which I actually just purposely built for this specific team. She's a very good champion, but just for this team. So you want her to open with the decreased defense, weaken, decreased speed. So you want her to open with this, and then she prioritizes her field turn meter, 20% increased crit rate. All this turn meter stuff and then this decreased speed, I don't think it overall matters. Like if she doesn't drop the speed, if for example decreased speed gets resisted, I don't think this run fails. So just something to keep in mind. But the important thing is to land the decreased defense and weaken to help you guys hit the max, get the maximum damage out of this group, because it does run pretty tight in terms of overall damage. I tested it a lot. I try to get away with not using masteries, not using books, try to do as minimum as possible on some of these champions, but I could not get away with it. I'll explain a little bit later when we show off the builds. But you want her crit capped, damage, and accuracy. Like I said, you want 550, but since we're running Mithrala in the lead, she gets plus 80, so 496 is plenty. So let's jump into a run and I'll show you guys how it goes. Show you guys like a full speed run here. So Renegade gets targeted, Mithrala opens, lands all the debuffs. Okay. So it got cleansed off, all that stuff got cleansed off. We're going to cycle back slowly to the bash here, yep. And then Heartseeker again will come. And then it should be finished. Oh wow, we got a record time here. Oh, not quite. 24 is actually our record, but I would think the average for this team is about 24 to 40 seconds, somewhere around there. 40 seconds is probably like worst case scenario, but I think on average it's like 31, 32, 33 seconds. It's a very solid run. I got it to this state. It took a lot of energy, trial and error to get it right. I'll show you guys exactly what to do and exactly what to look out for. Okay, so here we go. So the builds for this team, I tried my best, like I said, to use no books, no masteries, as little gear as possible, but I could not get the job done. Obviously this is a very tough dungeon, so I tried my best to do it minimally, but now I couldn't, so I had to, you know, basically do things properly. And even then I'm not doing things fully properly, because I think this run would work better if you have bolster gear, but I don't have enough bolster gear to especially spend on a team like this, which I don't actually use all the time. So my Mithrala build here, she's in regen. This is basically the build I use for like dueling content in a lot of different areas. So her total stats 277 with 458 accuracy is not really high. 92k HP for her big shield. She's fully booked, of course. Brimstone helps if you can land it on the Phantom. Masteries here. Eagle Eye, I went for shield size. Increased shield, increased duration of shields, obviously AoE, and then basically things that keep her alive, healing, shields. Yeah, the shields really help your team for Hydra. They really help your team here, big time. So moving on from her, I don't think she's too much. The only thing you can add on her is maybe a shield set or a bolster set. A bolster set for this team would be massive, and I'll tell you why. The champion that needs the bolster set the most is actually Renegade. So I'll get to Renegade in a second. She's the most important champion that you have to figure out in this team. Not just damage. You want him to cap his hit. Savage is the easiest way to cap it. If you don't have Savage, you can get away with just random pieces, but you rely on the decreased defense and weaken from the Ruella. If she drops one of those, then might not hit the cap. And that's when this team might run into trouble, because sometimes the damage, you definitely can't fight the boss forever, so the boss will break through your defense. But here's my nut. The speeds are important. 258 damage. Make sure you just cap in his damage. Mastery, Giant Slayer is the important one. Fully booked. Phantom Touch, I have him Phantom Touch for Fire Knight. Extra hits against Phantom are good here. Moving on, so Ruella. So for Ruella, there's a couple ways to go here. You can go full damage gear. You can go full damage gear. Or I didn't want to invest good damage gear in Ruella, so I went with actually a toxic set. So Phantom does take extra damage from toxic set, and because of her multi-hits, she will be placing some extra toxic, dots on the Phantom. So here you want her good accuracy. The speeds are important. 261. Crit capped, of course, do damage. Skilled, fully booked. I try not to fully book her, but the extra percentage damage, it's going to be helpful here. Phantom touch for some extra damage, very good. Obviously you need some blessings against Phantom to keep his shade meter down. And then masteries, again, I tried to get away with no masteries on Ruella, but I could not. The important mastery here, of course, is Giant Slayer for some extra damage. Like everything else here on the support doesn't really matter. Like here for extra damage, it's just extra damage to help bring down the Phantom consistently. And toxic set, you don't need toxic set if you have like a Ruella with maybe like 250 crit damage and like more attack. It might do like similar damage anyways. It might even do more damage, but definitely give it a try. But toxic set for me, I think it was working just fine. But she can be in any gear. Her gear set's not important. So the Renegade. So Renegade, in my opinion, should be in a bolster set because you want her to heal. You definitely want a shield set, minimum, on somebody on this team, minimum. And you definitely want her to be able to heal. On this team, she is not able to heal that often. The only way she can heal on this team is with Life Drinker and with a War Master hit. She only gets one A1 hit. She only gets one A1 hit. And she has Phantom Touch to help her heal. And when she gets her A1 hit, she can heal off Life Drinker once. So it's important because when Renegade dies, the team will fall apart. Team will fall apart. So you want Renegade to stay alive as long as possible. That's why it's important to have big shields on Mithrala, and then you want some heals. So if you can put a bolster set on Renegade and then a shield set on somebody else, so 2 shield sets basically, that's going to go a long way because Renegade will at least get 2 heals in, 10% heals each time from bolster, because she's going to take 2 turns, right? That's kind of it for her. You want her to be the highest crit damage. Her speed's important. You want her the highest crit damage. You want super high HP so she can stay alive. You want high defense if you can swing it. Fully booked, of course. Phantom Touch for that extra healing from Life Drinker. Of course, extra damage is good. She only gets 1 hit, 1 A1. Okay, and then lastly, I have Cold Heart in a shield set. So the shield sets will stack on top of each other and make a bigger shield. And it's mainly just to stay alive. She's flexible enough that you can kind of like, these are just like random pieces for a shield set. You don't need any HP or anything to keep her alive. 239 speed, 70% crit rate for the Heart Seekers, 100% crit rate if you want to get more damage from the A1s, which is good. But they're not the big damage dealers. But I added a shield set to keep her alive. I've seen some people use shield set on Mithrala, which is probably worth doing too, like a shield set or a bolster set, and then a bolster set on Renegade. I think that's probably the most consistent because the healing will go on Renegade and she can stay alive. But this is the best I can do, 2 shield sets. So yeah, so Giant Slayer, more damage, fully booked, Phantom Touch. So you can kind of see that also that I don't have high blessings on this team. So this is also a big requirement of mine where I don't want to use my Kymar and I don't want to use Riho. I have both of those champions. I don't want to use them in this team because my Riho is tuned for something else. My Kymar is fast. It doesn't work for this team. So I don't want to use them for this team. So I want to use something else, and it's like something that's close to the speed that they can go. This team is great. This team's great. It uses champions I don't really use in other areas, or if they do use champions I do use in other areas, the builds do not change. That's the big thing. So this is why I picked this team. So I think I went over all the nuances in this build and what things can go wrong. I know I talked a lot, but trust me, I spent a lot of time figuring this team out, and this is what works. So hopefully it's worthwhile for you guys to pay attention here. You can see the blessings are also very modest. If you have a 1-star blessing on all of them, that's fine. Okay, it's not important. Not important. That's the biggest thing too. You don't need blessings on this team for the most part, because your team won't be weak hitting. Your team won't be weak hitting. Only Renegade. But Renegade will only hit once. One hit. We can go over to the run again. But this time I'll go through it in slow motion, okay? Okay. So he will hit Renegade. So Mithril uses the defense up. That's important. And then the attack up. Then all the debuffs start landing. The big slams here. He's capping it. 10% each hit. Cold Heart caps it. 409k. Big slam, big debuff, big slam, and then the big shield from Mithril cleanses everything. She deals damage to herself. All right, so the A1 comes in, and then the skills are reset. Takes another hit, gets debuffed again. See the poison, extra little bit of poison gets on there. Look at his shade counters, nice and low, nice and healthy. She hits once only. For +8. Okay, Heartseeker comes in again. See, Renegade is still alive. This is important. Renegade needs to stay alive. If Renegade breaks, your team dies. Your team never uses any weak hits, never gets enfeebled or anything like that. It's very important, guys. And there you go. That's how you do it. That's super smooth run. I'm super happy with this team. Because I spent most of the day figuring it out and just working out the little nuances of it, because I couldn't put together the double bolster or bolster plus shield combination, and I managed to make this work with double shield. But you couldn't make it work without the masteries. So the Giant Slayers and the the offense masteries definitely helped this team get over the finish line against the Shogun. I definitely recommend using Mithrila's A1. So giving her accuracy to land her A1, the extra poison damage really helps. If you don't have toxic gear for Ruella, just jack her up with damage. It's 5k attack, 250 crit damage, savage gear, whatever. Just make sure she slaps, okay? Because you need them to help each other to kill the Phantom. But anyways, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the team. This is a really nice team. It's made with, rares, an epic, free legendary, and a fusion. And it's one of the hardest dungeons in the game. And this is a really fast farm, 25-30 seconds, really great farm. Doesn't use champions. You can keep your other champions in other areas of the game and still farm the highest levels in the game. All right, guys. So I appreciate your time. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys learned something. Hopefully the team works out for you guys. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think. And I'll see you guys in the next video.